What's happening, folks? Back with another reaction, back with some more U2. And before we get to Achtung Baby, we're going to listen to a couple tracks that were released after Rattle and Hum, but before their next album. And in that regard, I'd like to give a big shout out to Chris, who sent these over with a little information. I'd also like to give a shout out to Mr. Solo, who started off the U2 deep dive with his material, as well as to Adam, who's been sharing it more recently. And indeed, right now, Adam's server is not available, which is why we haven't started going through the next album yet, but it's been perfect timing as it turns out. So once again, shout out to all of you who've been sharing, as well as to Izzy, who's given me some insight about the shift in musical direction that Achtung Baby will represent. So I'm looking forward to hearing some of that in practice. In any case, the next tune we're going to listen to is Night and Day, which is apparently the first release after Rattle and Hum. When I think about the title, two things immediately come to mind. One is just the cycle of a full day, which comprises both night and day. And in that regard, it's the type of phrase that can often be used metaphorically for larger and more long-term cycles, whether birth and death or other experiences for those of us here who are living on planet Earth. And in that regard, it relates to the sun rising and the sun setting, so I feel like there's a lot of visual imagery that could be at play, even if it has figurative meaning. I will say also, though, night and day is often a phrase used to indicate conceptual difference, meaning someone might bring up one concept, someone might say, oh, that's kind of like this, and another person might disagree and say, no, it's night and day, it's, completely different, apples and oranges. So I feel like that phrase or that interpretation of the phrase might bear relevance. Of course, I'll try to catch what I can on a first listen. Let's give it a listen. This is Night and Day by U2, a track from 1990, 1 year before Achtung Baby was released.
The trickle, the raindrops when the sun showers through. So a voice within me keeps repeating you. Night and day, you are the one. Only you beneath the moon and under the sun. Whether near to me or far, it's no matter, baby. Where you are, I think of you. Night and day and night. Why is it so that this longing for you follows wherever I go? In the roaring traffic boom, in the silence of my lonely room, I think of you night and day. Night and day. Under the hat of me. Oh, such a hungry yearning burning inside of me. This time won't be through till you let me spend my life making love to you, day and night. Till you let me spend my life making love to you, day and night, night and day, night and
Wow. That was a stunning song for multiple reasons. First off, I definitely hear a difference in terms of the sonic atmosphere relative to Rattle and Hum, never mind the previous albums. So, first of all, it feels both epic and tension filled. There's some dissonance in there, especially those tension strings, which in some cases are just kind of like that cinematic tension string where they give you a bit of suspense, but in a couple places they turn sharper and get a bit more dissonant and thus like increase the feeling of almost like anxiety, not in a bad way. Again, I listen to a lot of dissonant music, and there's often dissonance has a purpose. It induces a sort of emotional state or a mental expectation which can then be paid off by other aspects or other sections of the track. So I think it works very well in that regard. There is also a big scope and sweep to this one. Of course, that gritty, smoky, dense bass like pulse. It's sort of, I wouldn't even call it a bass line because it's more like this fog that just keeps rolling over the track, but it's got grit, it's got like electrical intensity to it. So that was maybe my favorite sonic element to the track overall. But definitely there's some cool guitar work, including some guitar work that I feel like has some effects on it where it's like making it, what's the right word, like choppy or like fragmented almost. That sounds, or that was a great sonic ingredient in the overall sonic tapestry of the tune. Then we get Bono's voice, which I feel like he is singing quite different here. I mean, there's moments, including like the first half of lines. There were several lines where he started the first half of a line sort of with that bluesy, scratchy, fiery type of delivery that I've heard him do now on multiple albums, but was maybe especially notable in the blues or blues rock infused tunes on Rattle and Hum. But then halfway through the line, he would flip to this falsetto or thereabouts type of delivery, which gave the vocal performance overall almost like this quasi-operatic type of feel. Like he really sung here in a way that had some cinematic scope and operatic volume to it. So yeah, a really incredible vocal performance from Bono. And yeah, the song just had this intense, epic, and heavy feel with, again, a bit of tension or anxiety in it. So yeah, it feels like that might be conceptually targeted in that what I got from the title phrase actually was, yes, you're talking about a division of time, but here it's like the meaning as I took it is that it's both parts of the cycle. It's, there's not one part of a daily cycle or a weekly cycle or a monthly cycle or a yearly cycle. where he's not feeling this inner yearning and burning. It's all day, it's night and day. It's, ubiquitous in his psycho-emotional experience, in the passage of time. There's never a point where he's not feeling it. So it's a clever use of a phrase that speaks to two parts of a larger cycle, but he's saying it's all the same. It doesn't matter whether it's one part of the cycle or the other. So it sounds like maybe this yearning and burning is at least not fully fulfilled. Like, maybe he is making this connection, maybe he is experiencing it, which, again, I do wonder the lyrical origin here. That, I understand a lot of Bono's songs relate in some way to his marriage, so my immediate thought when I heard about this, yearning, I was thinking that it might relate to that. But either way, it feels like there must be some aspect of his experience where he's not getting enough of this connection. It's not fully giving him the totality of, what's the right word, experience that he wants. Basically, it sounds like if there's a yearning, then there is an insufficiency to the quantity that he's receiving. So, which of course might be more about his disposition necessarily than the level of engagement by this person being spoken to, who I'm assuming is a literal person. But of course, you could be personifying, a process, a type of experience, a religious feeling, whatever it is. But yes, certainly it sounds like he wants more, and he wants it all the time, night and day, and there's no relenting in that regard. But yeah, a really cool tune, one that, again, sounds a bit different from what I've heard so far. Ultimately, I'm not sure how much this will be a direct presaging of what's coming on Achtung Baby, but I'm looking forward to that. I did mention there's another tune that Chris sent, and just to give a little foreshadowing here, it's taken from a soundtrack, and it's Alex Descends into Hell for a Bottle of Milk / Korova 1. So we'll listen to that and talk more about it next time. I did get a bit of context, but we'll wait for the next reaction. So from the somewhat indecisive and a bit fussy Luca and I will see you next time. Peace.